Hi guys, and welcome to Blackpack Homestead. Today on the homestead, the lacto fermentation of asparagus. Alright, let's go. Going out with Mama. Come on. Go, go, go. Come on. Come on, puppy. Danny, go. Go, go, Sassy. Go, 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 go. Go in the yard. Good girl. Today on the homestead, as you saw in the beginning, we are fermenting the lacto fermentation of asparagus. So yeah, that's what's going on in the kitchen today. I know we've done a lot of stuff in the kitchen lately, but I'm making up for lost time, guys. I was so sick and just not motivated to clean my kitchen, let alone cook or ferment in my kitchen. Chris did ferment some things for me, and I'm going to show you those fermented things that I have in the fridge and that I'm eating on now, and why I eat them, and where I learned all the good information about fermenting. So let's just jump right into it. First of all, Here are our lovely jars of asparagus, all covered in their brine with all their spices on the bottom. I do use Mason tops. This is not Mason top brand, it is an off brand, but it works just the same. When you do use these, I do recommend you use a dish to sit them in while they're fermenting, because even though the gases will escape through that little hole, if your brine does bubble up out of this little hole, it'll get crusty with salt and then it will overflow. And so always good to set your ferments in a bowl. Now, say you want to ferment and you don't have those groovy little lids. Well, before I bought those lids, I got them on Amazon 2 years ago, I think. I used to use just a regular mason jar lid and a ring. And I'll show you on an empty jar. The way that works is you just stick your lid on, and then you don't crank it down tight. You leave it loose like this. See, you can hear it wiggle. And then that will keep air out, but as the ferment bubbles, this will lift and let the gases out. But definitely always sit them in a bowl of some sort, because these do overflow more than the mason top type. Okay, now that I've talked about that, and we're going to get into the health benefits of fermenting. So one of the best resources that I can recommend to you is Nourishing Traditions Cookbook. It is so much more than a cookbook. It is a wealth of knowledge. It explains everything that they used to do back in the day when our grandparents, great-grandparents used to preserve, even going back further than that. It even talks about in Roman times, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that in fermenting. But Nourishing Traditions, it's got recipes, it's got information about heart disease, about just so many things. I can't even begin to tell you how much information is in this book. If I could have one book right now on my homestead for my kitchen, a cookbook, this would be it. Because this is going to teach you to preserve everything, cook everything, and tell you why it's healthy to do it that way. So this book is written by a lady named Sally Fallon and Mary G. Ingdid. I can't say her last name. Y'all know I can't pronounce stuff. And she's a PhD, and I believe they're going to be at a conference in Georgia soon, the folks that wrote this book. I can't remember the name of the conference. That's terrible, terrible, terrible. But I'll link it below. That's what I'll do. Or I'll share the Fit Farmers video, because he's actually speaking down there in Georgia at this conference. So anyway, let's get into fermenting. I have my fermenting section marked. Now you may say, why should I do this? I can buy pickles at the store and I've got pickled food. There's such a vast difference between what we're doing right here in this method of pickling as to the vinegar brine mickle of petting method of pickling. And I'm just going to read you a little bit out of this book. So, the process of lacto fermentation has numerous advantages beyond those of simple preservation. The proliferation of lactobacilli in fermented vegetables enhances their digestibility and increases the vitamin levels inside this food product. And it has other numerous helpful enzymes, as well as antibiotic, anti-carcinogen substances, because that main byproduct, lactic acid, not only keeps your vegetables preserved and fresh, it promotes the growth of healthy flora through the intestine. Back in the day, they called this alchemy. They didn't call it lacto fermentation. They didn't know why it worked. They just knew that it preserved their food. And so it says other alchemical byproducts include hydrogen peroxide and small amounts of benzoic acid. People have been fermenting all over the world for thousands and thousands of years. It just depends on what part of the country you live in on types of fermented foods you eat. Like we all know, sauerkraut, Germany, they ferment sauerkraut, and the Romans described and prized it for both its delicious taste and its medicinal properties. The Romans also fermented cucumbers, beets, turnips, and there are lots of other traditional foods that they also used in lacto fermentation. The less well-known ones are pickled herbs, sorrel leaves, grape leaves, fermented grape leaves. I'm hungry. Actually, I'm feeling hungry. Maybe we'll wrap this video up by trying one of these. These have fermented grape leaves. So obviously the Greeks ferment. In Russia and Poland, pickled green tomatoes, the lacto fermentation of green tomatoes, one of my most popular fermentation videos. Yeah, I ferment those. Puppies, we know, be quiet. Saffron, hush. Hang on, let me go make my dogs be quiet. So yeah, in Russia and Poland, they pickled green tomatoes. I like pickled green tomatoes. What else did they ferment? They fermented peppers and lettuces, and lacto-fermented forms of food in Asian cultures as well. People from Japan, Korea have pickled preparations of cabbage, turnip, eggplant, cucumber, onion, squash, and carrot. And we all know about kimchi, Korean kimchi. The American tradition for fermenting are mostly for types of relishes, corn relish, cucumber relish, watermelon rind, and all of which were no doubt lacto-fermented originally. But the pickling of fruit is a lot less known. Nevertheless, there are many traditional cultures, such as Japanese, that pickle yumboshi plums. And the peoples of India traditionally ferment fruit with spices to make chutneys. So I've never fermented a lot of fruit. I've read a lot about it, and most of the time you use your whey from, like, if you've made yogurt and you strain the whey out to make Greek yogurt, you can use that whey as a fermentation starter. I've never done that. I've just done it the traditional salt brine way. Lacto fermentation is an artisanal craft that does not lend itself to industrialization. Results are not always predictable. For this reason, when the pickling process became industrialized, many changes were made that rendered the final product more uniform and more saleable, but not necessarily more nutritious. Curious. The chief brine used is a vinegar brine, resulting in a product that is more acidic and not necessarily beneficial when eaten in large quantities. Curious and curiouser. And of the subjecting the final product to pasteurization, thereby effectively killing all the lactic acid producing bacteria, robbing customers of their beneficial effect on the digestion. Yes, they have robbed me for years. You ever think that maybe that's why all of our guts are messed up? Because we stopped lacto fermenting and went to vinegar because it was easier to pasteurize and sterilize and get all the bugs out, so we can't keep our gut health. When you eat fermented foods, you're gonna use them as a condiment. You're not gonna sit down and eat this whole jar of fermented asparagus. No matter how bad you want to do that, don't do it, because too much of a good thing is just as bad for you as eating bad things, because you'll get overgrowths of these bacteria, and then that can make you sick. So just make sure you use it as a condiment. Usually what I do when I'm eating my dinner, depending on what I have in the fridge fermented. So let's go ahead and look at my ferments. Right now I have some dilly beans. What else do I have? This was dilly beans. Here is the squash relish, is what I'm gonna call that I made the other, on the video when I fermented the cucumbers, the lemon cucumbers. And speaking of those stinking lemon cucumbers, here the lemon cucumbers are. So, like, when I'm eating these dilly beans, I'll eat them as a snack. And I'll come in the kitchen and I will pull out a bean. So dang good. And I'll eat my bean. I mean, if I'm eating it as a snack, I'll pull out a couple, maybe 4. When I eat dinner, I'll grab a couple of dilly beans and put them on the side. Grab a little bit of this squash relish, which turned out great. We'll sample that right quick. But y'all didn't get to know how this turned out because I didn't update you on it. I still have my weight in it because this stuff tends to float up. But this has squash, zucchini, tomatoes. All this came from our garden. It is so good. Fermented squash, zucchini, onions, and tomato. Make sure everything stays under the brine. That's the way it keeps. And this will keep in my fridge for 3 to 6 months, and I'll nibble on it. See, that has the beautiful tomatoes. It still looks like a tomato. Fermented tomatoes, the best. And the squash looks like summer yellow squash still. Zucchini still looks like zucchini. It is all so good. So very good. Sorry, I'm chewing. But yeah, when you eat these fermented foods to get the concentrated nutrition that's in it, to get the lactobacillus and the good probiotics that are in it for your gut, don't sit down and eat the whole jar. You guys know I made this back. I think I made this during Vlogust, so this is from August, and now it's October. And it still looks beautiful. You know, not discolored. It preserves it perfectly. It really does. So I want to read you just one more thing out of the book before we wrap up. Because this is, to me, really, it's really relevant right now. So, scientists and doctors today are mystified by the proliferation of new viruses, not only the deadly AIDS virus, but a whole gambit of human viruses that seem to be associated with everything from chronic fatigue to cancer and arthritis. They are equally mystified by recent increases in the incidence of intestinal parasites and pathogenic yeasts, even among those whose sanitary practices are faultless. Could it be that abandoning the ancient practice of lacto fermentation, and in our instance on a diet which everything has been pasteurized, we have compromised the health of our intestinal flora and made ourselves vulnerable to legions of pathogenic microorganisms. If so, the cure for these diseases will be found not in vaccinations, drugs, or antibiotics, but in a restored partnership with the many varieties of lactobacilli, our symbionts, and of the microscopic world. They are our symbiote. You know, you ever watch Star Trek and see the aliens that have symbiotes? Lactobacillus has been there right with us from the beginning. It was there for a reason. We abandoned it. It did not abandon us. Lactobacillus is on the surface of every vegetable, fruit you pick up. It is a natural occurring bacteria that is good for you. So yeah, I just wanted to read you that last little paragraph, and it's about depending on the subject, it's got about 5 or 6 pages of information and then recipes. So I just wanted to read you that last sentence, paragraph especially, because in today's climate, now I'm burping because I just ate some fermented food. Anyway, in today's climate, everybody knows what's going on, guys. We all know. And there's sense to what I just read to you. I mean, I can use myself as an example. One of the main reasons I was really down to Homestead and to raise my own food was to try to heal myself. And now I'm doubting even my diagnosis of Crohn's disease. I wonder if there isn't one autoimmune disease that encompasses all of my symptoms. Looking into that. But I truly believe that because we went away from lacto fermenting to vinegar brine pickling, and I used to drink pickle juice, vinegar pickle juice. I loved it. I was killing my gut, killing it. I would juice in my juicer kosher dill pickles, yeah, with vinegar brine. Yeah, I was killing my gut. Too much acid. But now that we have started our homesteading journey back in 2018, really hardcore raising livestock and really preserving our harvest, instead of just fresh eating garden like we've always had. And studying this book and watching a lot of you guys' videos and a lot of other homesteaders, I've learned, and I believe, that the reason I'm sick is because we went away from these natural traditions and away from raw milk, away from home cooking. And everything's processed in a box. And I'm telling you, I have my weaknesses. There are still things that I eat that are processed. I do the dang best I can. And sometimes I'm just too sick and Chris is too busy and I have to reach for that can of tomato soup, you know, or that can of whatever, or that frozen egg roll, you know. But I do try, for the most part, to only eat whole foods. But like I said, I'm not perfect. Sometimes we have our favorites that we can't let go of, and I'm working on it, doing the dang best I can. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little video about lacto fermentation. I hope you learned a lot of good information. I hope you go buy this book, because I'm telling you, it is the best cookbook I've ever owned. I've learned more about how to heal myself from this book than anything else. And if I can recommend a book, this is it. So thanks for watching our little lacto fermentation of asparagus and learning about the health benefits of lacto fermentation. I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys take care. And we'll see you here next time at the Blackpack Homestead. God bless and bye-bye. Oh, one more thing. T-shirts. Let me go make my dogs be quiet. Okay, one more thing before we go. T-shirts. Albert has got back to me with how much it cost us to make them, because he is the screen printer. Tech guy, screen printer extraordinaire, genius for hire. Anyway, he is my screen printer, and he has told me how much it's going to cost to produce this shirt, and now we're looking at how much it's going to cost to ship them. So as soon as I know those two things, I haven't decided if I'm going to put it up on our website or do it through Facebook or do both. I don't know, but as soon as I know, you'll know. So remember, if you want a t-shirt, please comment down below, yes, I want a t-shirt, because these are going to be limited prints because we are doing them ourselves. So yeah, thanks for watching again. Hope you enjoy the ferments. Go ferment something today. And I'll see you here next time at the Blackpack Homestead. Take care. God bless it. Bye-bye.